All right, Jason, you told me you were going to try and make me mad today.
Yes. So, in this first episode of the Get Up and Drive podcast of 2024, my name is Jason, OldeCarrGuy Carr.
I am John, CustomCarNerd Meyer.
Today, we're going to talk a little bit of shop talk, and we're getting on the subject of words that are more commonly mispronounced than they ever should be because people think they're smarter than they are. So, John, I've got a list of, a dozen or so words that we're going to kind of just skim through and have a chance to talk a little bit about each. But I first want to welcome everybody back to the Get Out and Drive podcast. We're happy to be back, John. 2024. So we've got lots of things planned for the future of the Get Up and Drive podcast. We've got some additions. We've got a few things that we're maybe taking away, but in the end, we want to grow our brand. And in order to do that, you've got to make changes. We've been doing this now for, we're going on our fourth season of the Get Out and Drive podcast, and we want to make it big. What do you say, John?
I want to make it big, and I want to make it huge. If people haven't heard about me yet, they're gonna.
So the first item on the list of shop talk words is a common one. We've all heard in the news that catalytic converters are big in the industry for theft. But most people don't even know what they are because of the way that people describe them. John, how do people describe these catalytic converters?
Usually, it's a little button on the dashboard, and if you can't afford a Cadillac, you just push your button and it converts the car you're driving into a Cadillac. Hence the name Cadillac converter.
Cadillac converters. So Cadillac converters are pretty common. They're getting stolen and sold at the scrap yards. And actually, you know what? Right now, the scrap yards aren't even buying them because it's like a die packs and a bag of money. All of a sudden, the cops come find out that you've got these things, and it's a hot potato. Nobody wants to touch catalytic converters. Therefore, as of right now, in early 2024, the value on catalytic converters is crap, to be honest.
I cut the hole in mine and I take the palladium out myself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what do you do with it?
I have a palladium watch. I made a palladium watch, and it's amazing. Did you hear that guy that was he was vacuuming the highway?
No.
And recovering all of the metals, valuable metals and things. He would vacuum cracks in the highway and everything, and he would recover valuable metal, things that were from the Cadillac converters.
Because Cadillac uses premium products when they build their cars.
Correct.
You guys know that I'm in the automotive business. We've got a shop at our used car dealership, so we're dealing with customers all the time, calling and making appointments, and trying to diagnose or help us diagnose what's going on with their cars. And one of the more common problems that they have is they have problems with their brake routers as well as their calibers. Caliber was a product Dodge made in the late 2000s that was a piece of shit. But at the end, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Paul, you'll have to edit that out. The caliber was a piece of junk that Dodge made in the late 2000s. It is not and has never been part of your braking system.
Now, how do you spell brake? Because I look at all of these on Marketplace, and they're spelled, these brakes are perfect on my car. My brakes are bad. I hate looking at that. And you look at that and it says that my brakes are bad. It says BREAK.
Yeah, so that means that when you take your 15-minute break at work, you're not allowed to have your cigarette, or you're not allowed to have that drink of beer because my brake was bad. No, guys, brakes, BRAKES, when you're referring to the brakes on your car, not BREAK, which means take a break, chillax, have a smoke, have a glass of water, drink, whatever. That's a break.
You said you had a term that was going to make me upset.
Yeah, so you guys all know that I've been recently working on the Yugo, trying to get the Yugo ready for sale because we weren't going to do the motor swap from the Toyota into the Yugo. So I took the old Yugo motor and I put it back in the car. And I got the motor running.
No. Stop right there. What is a motor?
The part in the end of the hood of your car that makes your car go.
No.
gas,
No, no.
air,
Here
fuel,
you're here telling everybody you have definitions on how to use words correctly, and you're using that word to describe an engine.
motor, engine,
The
whatever.
hell is, dude? Come on. Now listen. I was in
No,
shop
look,
class.
you're not one of those guys.
I am. I was in shop class, and I got my ass handed to me by my shop teacher. Motors run refrigerators, engines run cars.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Is the drivetrain in your Yugo electric?
I certainly hope not.
No. Engine.
But it's the same thing. I mean, we can generalize. We can just be general.
Next, you're going to tell me it has NOS on it.
Well, not yet, but it may have. No, we may have put a NOS kit on it.
Stop it.
It's only got 55 horsepower. We got to boost that up somehow. We're going to put a 50 shot of NOS on that thing.
Stop it. You're making my eyes hurt. Well, how can you even sit there and give people the right terms? You aren't even giving them the right answer.
Look, I've got a whole list here of right terms. I mean, catalytic converter, rotors, caliper, motor.
No. We usually get along, but you need to quit. I mean, come out.
If you guys haven't figured it out by now, I'm certainly pulling John's chain, and it is huge that in car talk, a lot of guys just, I mean, they just throw motor out there. We all know exactly what that person's talking about when we say motor swap or how much horsepower that motor got and this and that. We all get it. We all know exactly, and most people don't bother correcting. But then there's John, right? So if you're having a conversation about a motor swap on your Yugo, well, I damn well be expected that he's going to jump in there and tell you how wrong you are.
I will accept the fact that you spell neighbor with too many vowels.
You're my favorite.
Right.
Co-host.
Neighbor, favorite, too many vowels. But I just draw the line. I will not stand for motor engine swap of the words.
But what happens when you step on the accelerator of that motor?
It is exhilarating. It depends on what car you're driving. It depends on what car you're driving. The Yugo, by chance, now that it has, like, what is it, double the horsepower now?
Oh no, it's like the stock engine's back in it, so it's still just 55. Again, that leads us into the torque. So it's got 55 horsepower and it has 51 foot-pounds.
Well, that's what I hear. I hear everybody says foot-pounds.
Pound-feet?
Like pound-feet is correct.
It seems like, probably about 20 years ago, it was foot-pounds of torque. It was foot-pounds of torque, regardless of whether you were talking about an electric motor or a gas motor. It was always foot-pounds. And then all of a sudden, political correctness came along and changed it. This isn't the French language where we just take words and put them bass-ackwards and start saying, it's not New Brunswick anymore. It's Brunswick New, or maybe it's foot-pounds, pound-feet.
It is pounds. It is pounds-feet of torque is the correct English term for that.
I got to go check my torque wrench to see what my torque wrench is set at. Is it set for
Yeah,
foot
you got to go look.
Feet?
Pounds, feet. It is pounds, feet. How many pounds per foot?
That's the greatest topic of conversation is horsepower. Back in the day, horsepower was measured by the amount of force that one horse could pull. But whose horse? Was it your 3-year-old horse? Was it my 30-year-old horse? Chances are they were pulling different powers. So I want to measure my horsepower by your young horse, not my old one.
That's true. And I love seeing the original diagram for horsepower that the horse pulls horizontal and it goes on a pulley and it shows it pulling a weight and it shows exactly how that works and how that measurement is measured.
I don't know. I'm just a guy. There's a reason why I have a podcast and why I'm not out there teaching people what foot-pounds and pound-feet and motors and cars and stuff is. So yeah, it's there's a lot of different things that can be done that intermingle with the metric system versus the imperial system. What is that we got up there?
Mm-hmm. See? Foot-pounds. It should be pounds-feet.
Well, it just goes to show that the world will use what the world will use, regardless of how they decide they want to use it. We're all going to know exactly what they're talking about. John, the next item that we wanted to touch base on, wheels versus rims. There is a difference. And why don't you explain to us what the difference is? And then that way, the next person that goes to use that term might think twice before they misuse that word.
And I'm going to make myself sound like some kind of an elderly person, but you kids get off my lawn. A rim is the outer hoop of a wheel. Now, it seems to be a younger folks' term to say that car has rims. I talk to a lot of people and they say, well, I put new rims on my car. Well, what'd you do with the rest center part? Is it still stock? And I'm like, what in the heck are you talking about? This is bonkers. It's the same group of people that seem to have watched all of the Fast and Furious movies, which I have not seen a one of them, calling things NOS and saying rims when that's a wheel.
Yeah, so if you're going to be putting a new set of wheels on your ride, to the average layman car enthusiast, you could say either, and we're going to know exactly what you're talking about. But to be correct, it's a wheel. The whole idea is that we're talking about words that, when they're said, everyone knows exactly right off the bat what you're talking about, whether it's misread or mispronounced or misused. We're going back. I'm not sure. Maybe Paul can look it up for us when the last time a generator was used on a car. My guess is probably the 50s, probably early 50s. No, later than that. Higher? 60s?
1964.
There you go. So we're talking a generator to generate power for your car to use things like headlights and all this stuff. Nowadays we have alternators that somebody wants to explain it to me. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is that a generator corrects direct current, direct voltage, and an alternator generates AC. I don't know if there's a difference between that. I know that there is in general, but when it comes to a generator versus an alternator, I don't know if there's any difference there. But you get the older crowds, the boomers, so to speak, who come in and they say, hey, yeah, I need to get the generator checked out on my car. I don't think it's charging. You can judge the age of that person very, very quickly when they're using terms like generators. Generators are long been used before mine or Paul's or John's time, but we know exactly what people are talking about when they use that term, don't we, John?
Yep. Tiny bit of trivia, and it's really quick. Biggest, easiest, quickest way to show people you're a genius and see whether or not you can tell a 64.5 Mustang from a 65 Mustang. 64.5 Mustang has a generator light. 65 Mustang has an alternator light. Or it'll have a generator gauge and an alternator gauge. That's the easiest, quickest way to find out.
Yeah, which you would not be able to tell by seeing it drive down the street.
That's correct.
Yeah.
By the average layman, no one would be able to tell a 64 Mustang from a 65 Mustang driving down the street.
Unless they sat inside of it.
Yeah.
Take me for a ride so I can see what year it is. I mean, I could probably just ask the driver and he'd probably tell you pretty quick.
Well, if it's a Mustang and you're on the curb, you'll see it soon anyway. Fine. It's fine. That's a whole other discussion. So
yeah, and John, you and Joanne write a lot of copy for advertising, and you come across a lot of different terminology, some that we didn't even know existed, which we've talked about previous episodes of the Get Out and Drive podcast. One of those being a thunder weld. Nobody knew what a thunder weld was, and this was somebody sending you the email using likely voice to text with a southern draw, stating that they wanted the fender well. They wanted to use that word, but instead it came through as thunder weld. We had a pretty good laugh about that. But when you're writing copy, you must come across a lot of these words that we're talking about today from people who just simply are unaware or don't know the difference, and use them as the knowledge that they have.
My biggest pet peeve is everyone saying every axle has posi traction. Posi traction is a General Motors term for equal delivery of power to a rear axle, to
Yep.
both wheels.
And
Limited,
if you're
limited slip, limited grip, whatever you
well,
whatever you want. Whatever you want.
terms are used quite loosely. Again, when we say it's a posi,
Mhm.
that means that both wheels will spin in a burnout, say.
Sure. They
Right?
have the same amount of power applied to each wheel equally.
Exactly. And
But that
each
is
brand had their own terminology for that. You Chrysler guys out there had sure grips.
mhm.
Ford guys, you had track locks,
There you go.
right? And GM had the term posi, but they were all LSD, limited slip differentials. They were locking differentials. So yeah, there's another term that we just stumbled upon on accident. And there's another one that people use all the time, on accident. No, it's by accident. Come on.
It's become a term like Kleenex. So it just applies to every car that has limited slip differential.
Is a posi.
It's a posi.
Yeah.
This guy told me he's got a posi in his Mustang. I'm like, really? Is that gonna? It has a 10 bolt in it?
Yeah,
It has a
GM
12 bolt in it? It's a GM 10 bolt, GM 12 bolt. No, man, it's a Ford with a posi. You sure? You sure? You might want to look on that again. So
Yeah.
that again is it. Everyone listening, it makes you sound a little more knowledgeable than the next guy when you can say something correctly.
So again, I'm going to put Paul to work, and I'm going to put him to work on the spot, looking up the definition of the word mint. Not as a flavor. We're talking about cars, old cars, advertising your car for sale on Marketplace or Hemmings or Auto Trader, Auto Hunter, wherever. Maybe it's on Racing Junk. Racing Junk is somebody that's been helping us build our brand for as long as we can remember, and they have free accounts. You can make sure you head on over there, check out your rims or motors or posi tractions
Or engines.
or engines on racingjunk.com. And people will misuse the term mint. In my opinion, the word mint, when referencing a car, means there is not one thing ever that you could pick apart on that car to make it flawed. Mint means it was 100% perfect. And guys and gals, there is not a vehicle that was ever made that come out of the assembly line mint, especially if it come out of the 70s.
Yeah.
So don't use the term mint when describing your car. Just because it looks good from 30 feet doesn't make it mint.
It's good from far, but far from good.
Right. Paul, do you have that definition for us?
It says here that mint condition is a term used to describe an object that is in perfect condition. It looks like it's never been used before.
There you go. If your car has more than 1 mile on it, it is no longer mint, folks. It's got rocks in the tires.
It originates from coinage.
There you go.
Because coins were minted.
Yep.
There you go.
Like it out of all these things that we've talked about here in the last 23 minutes, people misusing the term mint when advertising their 30-year-old rot box on Facebook Marketplace. Just because it passes a safety inspection does not make it mint. The tears in the seats, the scratches in the windows, the half-bald tires, and the rust flaking off the quarter panels. Guys and gals, stop using the term mint when advertising your cars, please.
Jason, you're from the north. What do you think about rust-free?
Rust-free. It absolutely is. There's no extra charge for rust when it appears on your salt belt vehicle. Look, if you live in the salt belt, if you drive your vehicle, there is no such thing as rust-free, right?
Must be one of those translations from the French Canadian.
Must be. Right?
Free rust.
It's been reversed. Yeah.
It does.
You're going to get your car if it's 20 years old. It doesn't even have to be 20 years old. In 5 years around here, cars are rote because of rust. So you do not own a rust-free anything. It's free rust, but it is not rust-free. Oh, shoot. We really could go on about these topics for hours. We could waste all the time we wanted to talking about this. The point of having this episode was just to share with you guys some of the comic relief that we deal with on a daily basis. John and his wife, they write copy, advertisements for vehicles of people who want to sell their stuff. I'm in the used car business as well as in the service business for vehicles. We hear these topics all the time. We wanted to share some of them with you, and I know you guys have heard them. I know that you guys have used them. And if you're offended by what we have to say, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. This is just the way it is.
I need to know what other people hear. Like, I got to know what other people have to have more and more and more of these things, because I can guarantee the second I turn the mic off, I'm going to remember more. And whoever's watching, you have to make sure you come and tell us the stupid crap that you've heard from lawn chairs behind cars in the car show and hanging out and reading on Marketplace. And you just I can't even take it anymore.
So if you guys are watching this, and depending on the platform that you're watching on, you may be able to comment. So if you're able to comment, tell us down below some of the things that we may not have touched today. These words, crazy meanings, these crazy things that we're talking about. But also, if you're listening to it on a podcast format, you got no way to comment other than to go to our website, getoutandrive.com. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom of our website page, you'll see there's a spot that you can actually record a message to us and let us know exactly how you feel. If we get enough of these, we will do a part 2 to this episode, and we'll talk more about it. We would love to. We have a lot of fun doing this. But as it sits right now, John, I have got to get back on the motor on the Yugo. So we better end this episode really, really quick, because it's not going to get done just sitting there. So, John, you have fun shaking your head on the other end. I've got to run.
Look, I know everyone wants to get out and drive, but it's been difficult with the price of gas lately. But get out and drive doesn't have to mean physically driving your ride.
Get out and drive means sharing your auto repair skills with the next generation. Hashtag, what drives youth?
Get out and drive means watching a classic road trip movie or something with a cool chase scene.
Get out and drive means hosting a car show or a cruise.
Get out and drive means working on that project car to get it ready to get out and drive.
Get out and drive means get those toy cars, Hot Wheels, remote control cars, and die casts and burn up the pavement.
Get out and drive means supporting organizations that help keep the automotive industry and hobby alive.
What does get out and drive mean to you?
Hit us up on our listener hotline. Be the first to know what's happening. Get industry news and grab your Get Out and Drive merch. Connect with us on social media. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Follow us on Twitter at Get Out and Drive Pod.
What drives you?